for multi-agency drills and helping each other out, I guess.
Yeah, my contention has always been, Joe, that it will start in London first and then spread to the United States. That's because the New World Order, the Illuminati, believe in the phoenix. The phoenix, a mythological bird that when it comes to the end of its life, it burns up, and then out of the ashes of the phoenix, the old bird comes a new bird, okay? So in the world of Luciferian globalism, they must destroy even their own old world to bring about their new world order. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it makes sense to me.
In other words, a false flag. A false flag. And so the thing that most people don't understand is, look, the fight for Jerusalem is God's throne. The Antichrist, and whoever he is, and whenever he appears, concurrent with his appearing will be the appearing of the two witnesses. Because the two witnesses, that isn't the church age or some dumbass religious concept that somebody... These guys have to die in the streets of Jerusalem at the end of their ministry and be resurrected before the whole world, probably on Christmas Day or the holiday seasons, because the world will give presents to each other and say, boy, we're glad we're done with those guys. But little do they know, they've only just begun, because when the two witnesses go, then you get into the day of the Lord's wrath upon all those who have taken the mark of the beast. So look at where we're at, Doug. Remember 10 years ago when we first met, we were talking then, you had an implant, a little capsule, and the biometric coding of everyone. And look at where we're at now. I mean, now you've got smart dust, okay? And you've got stuff that just defies the imagination. And Tom Horn, I've done, 10 hours on what happens if there's a mutagenic property in the mark of the beast that's inserted into you, or basically tattooed onto you, whatever it is. See, I don't get all caught up in the terminology, because either way it's bad. I have Christians asking me if they take the mark of the beast to feed their children, will God understand? I said, absolutely, he'll damn you to hell. Because why would they trust the system more than the hand of the Lord? I've asked the Lord and to get the same answer. I said, he'll say to me, Steve, go back and look at how I deliver my people. You know what it boils down to? They basically worship him, trust him, and God moves on their behalf. And I pray every day, and I'm asking all the intercessors who are listening to my voice, male and female, to pray every day that the plan they have for the destruction of 100 million Americans, that their swords will be turned on each other. That's what I'm praying.
As well, everyone should. We need to, and the power of prayer is so underestimated. We all need to pray constantly, because we are in so much danger, so much trouble. But Steve, let me ask you this. We're getting some specific questions by people here. Okay, economically, what do you see happening here in the short term? The hyperinflation, the devaluation of the dollar, what's going to happen?
First of all, we've had hyperinflation, though it hasn't been pronounced or as apparent as in Germany. But look, Doug, we've got, if you take a derivative, and I talked about this, the derivative problem is $1 quadrillion. That's 1,000 trillion. The gross domestic product in the United States is 16 trillion. The worldwide, I think, is close to 30 trillion. But the point is that we've already seen it. We're printing money, what's called quantitative easing.
Yep.
They print more and more money, and that's why the rest of the world is rejecting the U.S. dollars. That's why Iran is trading gold for oil. That's why the war that was initiated against both Libya and Iraq initially was over the money thing. You can't just basically print money ad infinitum. There will be a new currency, whether it's the Amero or something else. But look, there used to be some hope, and here's what I want to say. The hope is misplaced if it's in the system. It has to be in Jesus. Trust in the Lord with all your might and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, meaning Jesus, and he'll direct your path. The point is that people are trusting. They want a political solution to a spiritual problem.
Wow, that's great.
I tell people, when they ask me if I'm a Tea Party member, I said, no, I'm a Tree of Life member. They said, what's that? I said, I'm looking for the author and finisher of life. You can't hang tea bags on a tree and think it's going to change anything. Yeah, have you guys ever heard? Now, listen, I support the Oath Keepers. I support the principles that are godly, biblical, but you cannot expect a biblical solution. Anybody who would be God's man would get probably 1/10 or 1/100th of the vote if he said, you know what, we got to repent as a nation or be destroyed. Can you imagine the mockery that man would endure?
Oh yeah, it would be insane because I mean the news media is beyond secular. They're actually demonic in my view.
I agree.
You know, and demonically driven, I suppose. Yeah, so okay, economically, look, we're in for, you know, you can't print money to the extent that we're printing money, and to expect that. You've got a great article, by the way, folks. Again, stevequayle.com. I think it's 24 reasons, or a whole bunch of reasons why we are in deep doo doo with respect to our economy. Folks, read that. It's just incredible. The 22 reasons, I guess it is.
22 red flags that indicate that very serious doom is coming for global financial markets. Look, here's what people are really having a hard time grasping. The revolution that has been seen in Greece is nothing compared to what you're going to see in Spain, is nothing compared to what you're going to see in France, is nothing. Even one of the top stories today, Britain's in a double-dip recession. Oh, yeah? Well, Britain right now is the ultimate expression of a police state. They still have more cameras than any other country in the world, yet we're catching up with them, aren't we? So doesn't it seem strange to everybody that there's this parallel symbiosis going on between Great Britain and the United States as far as people controls? Yet isn't it interesting that radical Islam has total freedom in Great Britain and total freedom in the United States, and yet fundamental Christianity, you know, I remember hearing the Archbishop of Canterbury or somebody saying that there'd be no Christians left in the British Isles, and he said that, I think, 5 years ago, within the next 10 years. Yep. And then you see this, the stamping out. Isn't it amazing? When Jesus said, I came and they received me not, but another will come claiming me to be me, him you will receive. You know, that's the nature. And look at Jesus. They hate him without a cause. Every woman in this world, especially these lying demonesses that believe women's rights give them the ability to murder. And look, the point is this, is that Jesus did more to emancipate women. Doug, I put an article up of just in I think, Britain last year. Did you see it yesterday on my site? 100,000 sexual mutilations a year?
Yes. Yeah. Powerful. I mean, yes. Powerful may not be the right word, but yeah.
Well, can I say something?
Shocking.
It's disgusting. It's inhumane. And where are all those lying she-devils that are women's rights when, you know, whether it's a Sybil Shepherd completely trashing Christians and then claiming she's a follower of Jesus Christ, not the one of the Bible, you know? Well, you see, the problem is that you know, there's such insanity rules the order of the day. But somehow, and I don't know, here's my prayer to the Lord. I said, Lord, how do you get people off of their rear ends to stand up, to rise up, to speak up, and to put their money where their mouth is to make a difference? Remember this, ladies and gentlemen, everything that's being funded against you, they're not only laughing at you because they're using your money to do it. Yep. They're going to take everything they can, the IRS. Okay, you lose your ability to travel. You lose your ability to own weapons. What's left, you guys? I mean, seriously, what's left is basically, you know, we work on the Erie Canal and we owe our soul to the company store or whatever. So the thing is that the noose is tightening, and God is warning, pleading again. And so what's the word of the day? When I say hyperinflation, imagine, Doug, it all stops. This is something that in the old days, even the depressions that are around the world, we have become so technologically dependent that, you know, can you imagine the average person that can't access their bank account, can't access their credit card? And by the way, that's happened around the country over the last couple of years in excess. And then, you know, sometimes when you and Joe come on and talk about something, or Hawk and I talk about something, and an operation gets called off, God gave us time because somebody somewhere is praying. But what happens when the Lord himself says you're out of time? And somebody said, well, then you're really out of luck. I said, luck has nothing to do with it. It's talking about the providential response of God to a penitent, meaning, God, I'm sorry that I'm a sinner, and accepting Jesus. Look, I got to tell you something. It's my own issue, my own thing I'm fighting with right now is, Lord, only you can get your people's attention, and I've done the best I could, Doug. And I know this. I've said this over and over and over again. When that there comes a time, and Jesus said it this way: the night comes when no man can work while it's just day. And when everybody's on a permanent siesta or too busy shaking down the brethren to live as kings while people suffer. Can I tell you the highlight too of my trip to Florida?
Oh, please.
Myself, Aaron, his wife Julia, and their 10-year-old little boy got to talk to a homeless guy. And when I say this, he wasn't begging, but he'd been on, just had life against him. His one sister was murdered. His second sister died in a car wreck. His third sister died of an overdose, and his fourth sibling is dying of, I think it's cancer of the colon and cirrhosis of the liver. And yet, when we talked to him, he was one of the sweetest, most gentle men. And the thing instantly I said to him, this is a highlight, you guys. There's a lot of stuff, but when I saw that man and I saw his true state of honesty before the Lord, I said to him, you're an honest man. And he said, no, I'm a drunk. I said, man, and I looked him right now and I said, so was I. And the same Jesus that wouldn't leave me there won't leave you there. Doug, the man was weeping for joy that Jesus would still forgive him, because he had accepted the Lord once. And I said, I forget his name, but Anton. I said, Anton? I said, God's never turned away from you. And I want to say this. I said, Anton, and I meant this, and I did not say this to make him feel good. I meant it to encourage him. I said, Anton, I'd rather be with you than all the lying hypocrites I got to deal with on a daily basis. And so my dear friend Aaron and his son was with him, and it was so cool. And the guy just began to melt. Obviously we gave him some money. Aaron's wife gave him some food, and it was so neat. And then I said to him, I said, Anton, the angels of heaven, and I prayed for the protection around him, and I felt the presence of God like I have not felt in some time, like electricity shooting through my fingers. Look, I'm nobody. I'm a drunk, too. I was a drunk until Jesus saved me. But the point is that here's a man who's honest. If you're honest, ladies and gentlemen, the whole point of me taking this little sidestep, it was so amazing to see the love of God to a man that all society had abandoned right there, and there was nothing more important to me, nothing more important to Aaron, his wife, or his 10-year-old son than that meeting, and that was a divine meeting. If God's people would understand the transforming power they have by caring, by getting involved. Someone said, well, you want to be hitched like, cheerleader? I said, as long as I'm leading his praise, as long as I'm doing what he's doing. Listen, Jesus is amazing. He's wonderful. He's spectacular. He's glorious. He's holy. He is the reason for every season. The book of Colossians